consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. One alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. Enjoy your time. And so just bringing ourselves gently back, feeling the seat beneath us, feeling the sensations of our physical body, knowing that we are here, and right now, knowing that one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. And it is from this place, this oneness, that I speak my word, knowing that there is only one. There is only one power, one source, one light, one love, one divine presence, present everywhere. And I know that I am that. I am that divine presence, that light, that love. It flows through me with power and love. And I know the same thing for each and every person in this room and beyond and beyond. All of creation is an expression of this one light, this one power. We are all connected to each other in it. So I know that love is present here today. Love is present as we each bring our own consciousness here, that own consciousness of love at its highest place. And that this service flows perfectly from moment to moment as we all join together to celebrate the truth of who we are. So I know it's a blessed time, a divine appointment, a perfect time. And I just release it. I just release it and let it go and let it unfold, knowing that it is all good. And I simply just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Mahalo. I am grateful for it. And I release my word, I release it as law. And I know it is done as we say together. And so it is.
All right. You are magnificent. Yes, I am. Yes, I love it. And because you're not alone, we would like to tell you who we are as well, right? I am magnificent. Yes, I am. I love it. We can never say it enough. Right, Rita?
Right, and we come here every Sunday to remember that. To remember that we are divine expressions of the one light, the one love, the one power, the one source of all life. That is who we are, and we are not separated from it at all. It is within each and every one of us. We are right smack in the middle of it, and everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we think comes from that place. And we know that our thoughts are very creative, and the thoughts we choose create our life. So we work on knowing who we are first, and then thinking from that highest place. That's the basic teaching of the science of mind and spirit, and that we're all one. So everything we do and say and think affects all of us. So
I was telling Rita the hardest part of this serving this wonderful community is that I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at people that are coming, and then I'm looking at people that are leaving in the morning. And I said, does this feeling ever stop that I'm going, welcome home, goodbye, welcome, you know? It's one of those moments that, you know, we live on this beautiful, beautiful island that I'm just amazed every day that I live here, what power and what magical spirit is right here, and that people come and they can't help themselves. I just had someone, I can talk about him because he's not here. No, I'm sorry. I just saw him and he was here last week, and how many times do we hear this when they go, so when are you leaving? Well, I'm not sure. And I went, well, do you have a return flight? And yes, I do. I'm still contemplating. I'm thinking, if I only heard it once from somebody, that would be okay, but it's like every time somebody visits, it's like, I'm not sure, will I be returning or will I not? So we're in a wonderful place, and many times as you come and you go, it really doesn't matter, because we will be here with open arms welcoming you and knowing you'll be back. So,
So with that said, we're going to turn the time over to Jeremy and Aimee to lead us in our opening song in their own way. And we'll just stay open to whatever that is.
I got love like an ocean. I got love like an ocean. I got love like an ocean in my soul. I got love like an ocean and a heart full of emotion. I got love like an ocean in my soul. I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain in my soul. I got joy like a fountain and the faith to move a mountain. I got joy like a fountain in my soul. Yeah. Good morning. This all happens at 9 a.m. Can you imagine? What are other people doing? What are they doing at 9 a.m.? So we have had community sleeping. We have our community reading, which is also in your program. And each week we just change it up. And this week, with these wonderful God-given things called reading glasses. So join me. My eyes behold the complete and perfect in all creation. In all, over all, and through all, I see the perfection. There is nothing else to see, and no suggestion of otherness can enter my thought. I know only the perfect and the complete. I am perfect and whole now. I see the good. Wouldn't that be just wonderful? Isn't it wonderful to see the good? The good in everything. And I do want to repeat everything. Even when it appears to be something different, what's at the very core of that is always good. So, thank you for joining me in that. I would like now to introduce Deborah Van de Day. She's our practitioner. For today, some of you know her, most of you do, because she's been here since the beginning with us. And now she's in Colorado, and I'm so glad you're back. You are so loved here.
From of old, there are not lacking things that have attained oneness. The sky attained oneness and became clear. The earth attained oneness and became calm. The spirits attained oneness and became charged with mystical powers. The fountains attained oneness and became full. The 10,000 creatures attained oneness and became reproductive. Barons and princes attained oneness and became sovereign rulers of the world. All of them are what they are by virtue of oneness. If the sky were not clear, it would be likely to fall to pieces. If the earth were not calm, it would be likely to burst into bits. If the spirits were not charged with mystical powers, they would be likely to cease from being. If the fountains were not full, they would be likely to dry up. If the 10,000 creatures were not reproductive, they would be likely to come to extinction. If the barons and princes were not the sovereign rulers, they would be likely to stumble and fall. Truly, humility is the root from which greatness springs, and the high must be built upon the foundation of the low. That is why barons and princes style themselves the helpless one, the little one, and the worthless one. Perhaps they too realize their dependence upon the lowly. Truly, too much honor means no honor. It is not wise to shine like jade and resound like stone chimes. So let's just take that reading of oneness into this presence of oneness. Right here and right now, settling in, dropping down. Just take a moment to actually breathe and center down into the heart. For that's truly where the presence lies. In this heart energy, in this space, in the silence. And so as we settle down into that place, into that heart, into that place of oneness, recognizing, remembering, and knowing that we are connected. We are each of this power, of this presence, of this one heart beating throughout universes, beating throughout visible yet ever so present. Settling into that knowing that you are that. And as you settle into that knowingness, I know and claim for each and every one of us here today that that heart energy, that love energy, that connection to all that there is, connection to this island, connection to each other, connection to this planet, Mother Earth. For in that connection, I claim and know that today is good and very good as each of us take this love out into this island, into the world, as we say yes to a higher consciousness, to a higher state of being, to a place where love abides. Claiming and knowing for each and every one of us peace, harmony, joy, abundance, and a great, great expression of love. So I take that in, I claim it, I know it, I give thanks for it is in that gratitude for this space, that all is well, all is known, and all is manifest. So I release my word into the law, right here and right now, knowing it's already done, for there is no time and space in the mind, in the divine mind. So I let it go and let it be. And join me in affirming this by saying, so it is.
Thank you for nurturing us with your music. So I'm going to turn the time over to Jeremy and Aimee to do some special music for us that they have chosen, and it's a beautiful song. And I'll just let you take it away. Okay? All right, thank you.
Lifting consciousness all the time.
So here we are. Higher standard of living. That's what we're talking about today. And yes, it all starts with consciousness. You know, I cannot tell you how I love this teaching that I dedicated my life to. I have been in a lot of places in my life, and this teaching helps me so much because I can take it to anything at all. And the fact that it's inclusive of everyone and inclusive of everything and is a teaching of love, it just, I can't tell you how it's helped me. In the darkest times of my life and in the most joyous times of my life, there's not a time when this understanding that we are one with God and that we are demonstrating our lives at the level of that knowing, it can take us anywhere we need to go. So, in the textbook of The Science of Mind and Spirit, Ernest Holmes tells the story about 3 people that went to a practitioner. I guess there were 4 of them. And they were in need of work. And one was making $15 a day, and the other was making $50 a day, and the other was making $75 a day, and the other was making $100 a day. Obviously, this was a while ago. Maybe not. Maybe it turned out they lived in Kaua'i. No, just kidding. So, and the practitioner prayed with them for work. And then they each went out and got jobs. They got jobs. But the one that was making $15 a day continued to make $15 a day. The one that made 50 made 50, and the one that made 10, so on and so on. You get the point, right? And so they were like, well, didn't this practitioner pray for me? Well, yes, but the situation is, how much did they value themselves, and did they know who they were? So this teaching is not about getting things. It really truly is about getting God first, and then everything else follows. And I think that's like sometimes we jump ahead. And we're dealing with, I love that sound. Turn it off. Oh, they say God is speaking no matter who's talking. Okay, so anyway, we're dealing with a law that has no limitation. Ernest Holmes writes, there's no limitation because mind can easily make a planet as it can make an acorn. The infinite knows no difference between $1 million and a penny. It only knows it is. So where does it lie then? If we're dealing with this infinite law, where does all the responsibility lie? It lies in our own consciousness, right? So we're the ones that have to raise our consciousness. I remember when we lived in LA, and we moved to LA to become actors, and I had come from like a home, like a really nice home in New Mexico, and I moved to LA and ended up in an apartment. And I never knew that I could have a house in LA. I didn't have the consciousness for it. I lived in the apartment for like, how many years? Like at least 12, 11? Oh, okay, so I was counting. Until one day I said to myself, no, I want to be back in my home. I want a home, I want a home, I want a home. And you know, it took a little bit while to build my consciousness to a home level, but I did. And then one of the things on the road was, I remember going into a Starbucks and going, buying somebody a $20 gift certificate for Starbucks, and looking at a banana and wanting it, and telling myself I couldn't have it because it cost $1, and who would pay $1 for a banana? Well, and then I stopped myself and I went, wait a minute, how much do you value yourself? You're willing to go buy somebody else a gift certificate for $20, but you're not willing to have this banana that you want just because it's $1? I bought the banana. That was one of the days that my life started to change, was when I valued myself enough to buy myself that banana. So, and then apartments came later. So, you know, the law of growth, I mean, this idea of growing into your consciousness, you know, you can't just sit there and go, I'm a millionaire and believe it if you're not, you know, if you don't believe it. You can't just keep saying things to yourself. So, yeah, start with a banana. Just start there and build from there. So, how do you do this? How do you build consciousness? That's what I want to know. So, we're given I want to give you some tools today, just like little things. One of them is to let go of the past. That's a big one, because we have a saying that principle is not bound by precedent. So we're not bound by what came So what happens though is we look at what is, we look at our life, how it is, and we start creating from that. That's called secondary causation. Like we want to go back to first cause, which is the infinite law that I was talking about, the infinite universe. But instead we look at what we see and then we say, oh, and then we start creating. That becomes our first cause. Does that make sense? It becomes I'm kind of teaching a little bit here, but that's okay. It becomes our first cause and we start creating from that. And then what ends up happening is we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over until we can't buy ourselves a banana. You know? So the first thing to do is to let go of the past. The next thing is we had a saying in our old center called for Lent. It was, Lent, everybody's celebrating Lent now, it's still going on, right? Well, Lent to us was let's eliminate negative thinking. That was what Reverend James came up with. So we spent 40 days eliminating negative thinking, if we could. So eliminating negative thinking takes training. It says, Ernest Holmes says, know your mind, train yourself to think what you wish to think, be what you wish to be, feel what you wish to feel, and place no limit on principle. So it's a matter of training. It's a matter of continuing to go back to the positive thought, even though what's appearing in front of you might not be so pretty, to go back to what's behind all that. Like Patrick, I think it was you, or Deborah, someone said it. Whoever said it, somebody said it today. Maybe it was you, I don't know. But the idea that behind everything is love, no matter what. So let go of negative thinking. We're doing that in my Emma Curtis Hopkins class now. I'm going to talk a little bit about her in a minute. But the idea that we can't create and lift our consciousness when we continue to think negatively or about ourselves or other people or anything. So that's another one. And then the other one is trust this law, this powerful law of cause and effect that we are smack in the middle of. It's the very being, it's the very mechanism that we came with. This godness that we are, these god and goddesses that we are, have this law that's like, this is the beauty of it. It's like impersonal. It's impersonal, and we're thinking into it all the time. And we need to trust it. That's what, like I was talking to you last week about my healing and with my mammogram and that whole thing. And for those of you that weren't here, as soon as I let go to know that it was that I was trusting a law that was impersonal, and I was trusting the faith of the practitioners that were praying to me, and just trusting that law, knowing that when I spoke my word and when they spoke their word, that law was going to take it. So what ends up happening is we end up going in and trying to fix things or trying to make the house out of this law that's so impersonal and so big and so infinite. And Ernest Holmes wrote this, and this really helped me when I read this. He said, we are not creating anything. It should be understood that we can demonstrate in spite of ourselves, in spite of all weaknesses, in spite of all fear, in spite of all that is in us, because such is the power of truth. We wait only for our own awakened thought. The law is neither good nor bad. Law is and responds. So, we're not creating anything. We're just lifting our consciousness to know that it's already done. We don't have to do anything. The law's already done its work. We're just stepping into it. So, Emma Curtis Hopkins tells us, if you don't know who she is, she's a 19th, 20th century healer and mystic. She was the greatest mystic that Ernest Holmes apparently ever met. He sat with her for 12 sessions and listened to her and took her lessons. And she said, and this really got me this week, we can't change anything. We can't change our thinking and heal ourselves. We cannot change our thinking and heal ourselves. And I really got this because what happens is we spend a lot of time, or I was spending a lot of time, and trying to think the right thought, trying to really think the right thought, and thinking that that's possibly what's going to heal my life. But she says that's not true. You can't do it that way. You have to go to the top. And the top is the oneness that we were talking about and singing about and praying about and reading about today. That is where we have to start now. To me, this makes it a lot easier. It takes a lot of pressure off me to think that I have to keep thinking the right thoughts, and I torture myself thinking, oh, every time I go to a negative thought, and I told you, eliminate negative thinking, but the way that it's going to happen is not from trying to eliminate negative thinking, but going to the top. Because once you're in that highest place of oneness, you're not going to be thinking anything else besides who you are and who everybody else is. And I know all of us have been there, either are there all the time or have been there on occasion, and we know what it feels like, right? So Emma tells us that we have to praise everything. We have to praise all people, all situations, and that we don't have room being in this oneness, being in this top, highest place of spirit. We don't have any luxury of going anywhere with our thoughts besides that. So how do we get there? How do we get there? That's the question. And it's individual for each of us. I know for me, I want to be there all the time. I'm not there all the time, but I want to be there all the time. And I discipline myself to think the right thoughts and all that stuff, but I know that it's the oneness. Whatever it takes. I know meditation is, and those that experience meditation, I know that is one of the most powerful things for helping us, to assist us to feel and be receptive to spirit. That is a place to start. I know that prayer, will take us there. Not the kind of prayer necessarily where we're begging, but a prayer of just staying in that place of oneness, as we do in this teaching. We stay in the affirmative knowing of who we are. Steps 1 and 2 of treatment are God is all there is, and I am one with God. And if we only did that, that's all we need. So I just want us to take the pressure off ourselves to think that we have to think so perfectly all the time. Know that if we get to that, if we can get and celebrate the oneness, celebrate our relationship to the whole, this perfection, this amazing divine energy and love that we are, and start, or Emma says, to see through those eyes all the time. That's our goal. And she says to practice it. It takes practice, right? It takes practice. And every time we find ourselves stepping out, like I do so often, and getting judgmental about something, or getting in the flow of the conditions of life and what people are doing and how dare they and da-da-da-da, we've all been there. I mean, come on. But we don't have to, because if we step back and we catch ourselves and go back and see the reflection of that other person or the situation through God's eyes, we'll see the perfection of it. And the more we do it, the easier it's going to get. That's the good thing. And to do the things that bring us there, whether it's singing or painting or sitting by the ocean or talking to our grandchild or whatever it is that brings us there, being with our loved ones, being by ourselves. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's individual to each of us. So I just want to leave you with this last quote by Ernest, that he says, the greatest good that can come to anyone is the forming within him or her of an absolute certainty of himself and of his or her relationship to the universe, forever removing the sense of heaven as being outside of ourselves. The greatest good that can come to anyone is the forming within him or her of an absolute certainty of him or herself and of him or her's relationship to the universe, forever removing a sense of heaven as being outside of ourselves. So, just leave you with that. Heaven is right inside of ourselves, and let's go on this journey of continuing to feel that oneness, and, seek ye first the kingdom of God. That Bible quote? That's what it means. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is within. That's where it is. Seek that and feel that oneness and embrace that oneness and practice that oneness, and everything else, I promise, I know, because I know, will take care of itself. So namaste.
Oh, what she's basically saying is that we don't want to suffer anymore, right? We didn't come here to suffer. Just I just love our vibrations. So like she's, goodbye everyone. And I'm like, okay. So where we're at here, what we're about is the fact about this whole idea of that we want to change our consciousness. We can say it over and over again that we are one, and that is who we are, and that is our identity. But here's the deal. The deal is that we have to believe it. And we have to go right into that place, and it's all individual for each of us. That's the beauty. This thing called spirit made us through itself so that we could express individually and always be connected to the source. I have this wonderful quote. We are continuously living a new life. And when the old and the new do not fit nicely together, the old, being no longer able to contain the new, should be discarded. Ever been there? We should never lose sight of the fact that the soul is on the pathway of an endless and ever-expanding experience, and that only by expansion can it evolve. This does not mean we should cast out any good that the old has to offer, but that we convert it to a greater good. We convert it to a greater good. Meaning that we don't stay complacent with just the way things are. I saw this idea, this definition of standard, and I have to tell you, it moved me, and not in a spiritual way. It moved me like, what? Universally or widely accepted, agreed upon, or established means of determining what something should be. Concept, normal, or principle established by an agreement, authority or custom, and blah, blah, blah. That's what it means? A standard of living, that somebody else has given me my standard of living? I don't think so. Not if what I say is true to myself, that I am from this thing called life, this thing called God. How could I live in just a standard way of living, something that's given to me by the authority? I only have one authority. And we may live in this world of many authorities, but I have one. And it's the one that pulsates through me, as me, that had the audacity to call me Patrick. That's who I am. And I will repeat that as many times as I can, not only for you, but for myself. Because I forget. Here's how you raise your standard of living, in Patrick's opinion. Not Ernest, not any of them. This is mine. The way that you raise your standard of living is raise your standard of giving. Period. And I'm not talking about when the collection, that would be also very nice, as a matter of fact, but perfect. But anyway, it's not about that. What it's really about, giving. Do you ever notice when you're feeling like you don't have enough, or the world isn't giving you enough, that sometimes we hold back, right? Even in relationships. Somebody hurts your feelings, somebody doesn't say something that meets your approval, and you get hurt. And what I do a lot of times is I pull back. And that's exactly when I need to raise my standard of giving. I need to express that feeling of being hurt, but move right back out into it. Because what we're talking here is restriction. When I don't have financial abundance or it doesn't appear, what's the first thing we do? We hold back. Well, nobody in this room, but I have. I hold back because I go, oh, I don't have enough. That's a lie. It's a lie, an absolute lie that I have told myself, and that I continue to tell myself if I don't start to give. And I'm not talking about going out and using every credit card I have in order to prove my standard of living. I have done that, by the way. And that didn't work, just FYI. It never does. Don't understand that. Because I'm relying on something outside of myself. And I think that's what we're talking about, the standard of giving. It is so important that when you have that idea that you don't have enough to, with everything inside of me, I give more. And I'm not saying give a lot more, but I give something. I remember being in LA and unemployed and sitting there thinking, because I was an actor, so I spent a lot of time in the unemployment world. And what happened was, I remember sitting there going, wow, you know, I've given to the world, and you know, I had the hugest pity party imaginable. Invited no one to it, because it's much more fun to be in pity by yourself, you know, because then it's really lonely. So then I go, oh, you see, I'm alone with this. And the first thing that I did was I went out and I volunteered at the AIDS walkathon. I said, I am so tired of thinking I don't have anything. I do have something. I have something to give. And it's even if it's only of myself. And I gave that. And I raised my standard of living at that time. Well, what happened was they loved me so much, of course, that they hired me. But that wasn't why I went there, right? I went there because I wanted to give and I wanted to make people laugh. And I wanted to raise the consciousness and get out of my pity party. Look around. We are immersed in wealth. We are immersed in a healthy environment. I don't care what's in that ocean. I don't care what's in that sky in LA. That's not the truth. It is not the truth. Do you feel I've thought a little bit about this week? I'm very passionate because I think it's time that we raise our consciousness, that we go beyond the words of what we're saying and stop allowing the world to threaten us, to put us back into a corner. We are not here. I am not designed to suffer. I am immortal. Did you know that? Even if I leave this form, did you know that I never go anywhere? FYI, I'll always be here. What I'm really getting to today about that power of giving is that that's in every area. Try it. When you feel that constriction that you can't love, and because somebody hurt you, or somebody done you wrong, or they didn't say the right things, or they're not doing the right things, dare to say, I still can do it. And stop clenching. Life is meant to be good. Anything else that we're experiencing, as I love Edwin Gaines, who's a Unity minister, and she said, there's no lack in the world. Charles Fillmore says, there's no lack in the world. And you say, well, have you looked at my checkbook? I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. Watch me. I'll prove it to you. Look, I don't feel good. I'll prove it to you that there's not health. That is a lie again. This is a kingdom. And whether or not we set up the magnetism that we are, that attracts it into our lives, that's up to us. Poverty is a state of mind. And it doesn't mean that we're not loving. It doesn't mean nobody loves in this world more than Patrick. I love life. But I really had to realize that I don't have to suffer. And sometimes when you're in the spiritual world, such as that I live in now as a full-time minister, sometimes I think to myself, well, isn't it much more attractive not to be really wealthy as a spiritual leader? It's much more what? It's much more what? Nothing. I mean, it's lack. It's not even saying what I would be preaching, as it were, telling, as it were. So I really got clear on that we have this idea about money, we have this idea about things in our life, that the world of conditions have taught us that it is noble to not have. That's impossible, because that indwelling Father that lives through me and as me, this thing called life, has it all. So, what do you think? I don't know. I just come here to let some spirit run through me and see what happens with it. But I got very serious in a good way this week. That I said, how am I going to raise my standard of living? I'm going to raise it by giving. Give everywhere you can. And gratitude. Oh, mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. You can't say it enough. Right? Because the more you're grateful, the more that it comes into your life. So we're here to live life to the fullest. We're here to remember who we are. So, in order to raise our standard of living, I'm going to raise my standard of giving and loving. I love all you. If you could see what I see when I look out at you, sometimes I see, what the hell is he talking about? Or, really? Really? No. You know, let me just say one thing before I close about what I feel about humor. I don't use humor to cover up anything. Sometimes I have in my life, I don't know if you have, I've laughed when I was inside crying or whatever, but this is what I feel about laughter and humor. Oh, we need so much of it. We need to laugh at the craziness that we've been living in this kingdom for all this time, and we just had some amnesia, some temporary amnesia, that's all. Love yourself through it. Love yourself through the awakening. We've just been in a little bit of a dozed off existence sometimes. So I love you, and as I always say, it feels so good to say it because that's a part of giving. When you can love everyone. Shall I repeat that? Everyone. The neighbor down the street, the bank teller, the person that didn't look at me nicely when I walked in the hotel, and I immediately judged. I love them. My world wasn't surrounded, I wasn't all of their world. That was really very shocking for me. I obviously knew that they did not know who and where I came from. But I do know this, that I love, and I love you. And so, raise your standard of giving, my friends. Namaste. Shine upon you, all surround you, and your light within you, guide your way on, guide your way on. So what I know is that we are right here, knowing that we have lifted our consciousness. We are beyond the standard of living. We are beyond the standard of giving because that is who we are. So I celebrate each and every one of us here today. The music, the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful celebration of community that we have shared. And we do not keep it in this room. No, we take it and we go outside, out into our world, and we share this thing called life, this thing called love. I know that each and every one of us have come here for something, and we leave with more than what we walked in here with. So I bless our time together. I bless this celebration as together in one consciousness we say, and so it is.